Good evening, everybody. How is everybody out there tonight?
Doing good.
All righty. So we're going to get started. We're recording this tonight, and hopefully it'll record well enough where we can put it on the YouTube channel. And I'm going to bring up my agenda here real quick. All right. So downloading and installing Vixen Plus. The easiest way to get Vixen Plus is to go to vixenplus.com. And I haven't updated this in a while. As you can see, May 27th, 2014 was one of the last times that I did anything. But I do keep this download latest version up to date. So you can always go to this download latest version page. And if you notice, when I hover over that, that says it's going to open the 64-bit version of 3.26.1. And that'll open the 32-bit version of those. And if I click on it and say I want to save the file, and then we're going to save it. Oh, where did I put all that stuff? Well, it doesn't matter anyway. We're just going to save it. And I'm not going to be running off of that version tonight. It has a couple bugs in it that are going to be fixed in the February 20th release that is coming a week from tomorrow. So, with that said, where did I have it? There it is. So you will have a zip file, and basically you'll just take that zip file and you can copy everything out of that and put it wherever you want. So I'm going to create a new folder right here. Tutorial.
Are you going to tell us where to put it?
No, I won't. I'll let Kirk do that for you. All right. And that's all there is to really installing Vixen Plus. You just copy everything out of the zip file and put it wherever you'd like. There's nothing that goes in your registry. There's no installation script. There's nothing hard about installing Vixen Plus. And the first time you run Vixen Plus, which you do just by double-clicking the vixenplus.exe, it will ask you, say, looks like the first time you run, and where do you want to store your data? And you can choose to let it store it in the user data or the My Documents, or you can say, let me specify where I'm going to store it. So for this, I'm going to specify we're going to store it in the same spot here, which would have been that one right there. And so I say, okay, and create it. And what happened is off the screen, it opened up Vixen Plus. So one of the things I want to do is we'll go in and we'll talk about preferences. And this is part of the setup, in my opinion, is I want to tell it to go ahead and on my display, this is display 3 that I'm showing. So I'll save that, and we're going to go ahead and start that again. And it goes out and it performs an update check, sees there's nothing to update, and opens up Vixen Plus. So you can, if you have multiple screens, you can specify which monitor it'll open up on. And these are how my system just shows the names. I don't know why it's like that. Yours may be different. This will allow you also to set different colors for things. I won't go too deep into the preferences here today, but most of the defaults are just fine in here. But when you want to explore around, go ahead and explore around under the preferences. You can also change your data folder here under the preferences as well. So is there any questions about installing Vixen Plus? Pretty straightforward, I think.
I got everything except after where you said download the file. Can you?
You can watch the video later.
No.
It will be recorded. I wondered why you were going to join tonight. Now I understand why. You got a 4-day weekend.
Exactly why.
You got a 4-day weekend coming up, and you just got a
Uh-huh.
bunch of energy, and you wanted to come and spend it spend it on us. I am honored, Kirk. I am so honored. That is awesome.
Somebody's got to keep you honest.
Well, that's a hard task even for my wife. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is setting up a profile. So you go to the View menu, Profile, Manage, and if we go in there right now, you'll see there's no profile, so we need to add one. And I'm going to have a theme here tonight. We're going to do tutorial quite a bit. I bet you the name of the sequence will probably even end up being tutorial later on. And so here you have a blank slate. And you could start just adding things in here and going, oh, okay, well, I need 1,400 channels, and I'm going to start adding 1,400 channels. And I go to the Add Multiple, and I start doing that. But one of the things that I recommend doing is planning a little bit. And what I did to plan was I went out to Google Earth, and I kind of thought of, okay, what do I want to do? I took the image of my house, and I said, I'd like to place things here, 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 and here, and here. And okay, what are these things and everything? But this gave me an idea of how my yard was going to be mapped out and how I would start mapping out my channels so that it would make sense to me when I started sequencing to know what I was talking about in my sequence. So I recommend there's multiple different ways. If you go on to the DIYChristmas.org forums and look at some of the suggestions for planning, there's a lot of suggestions out there on planning. I would recommend you do that before you start plugging away channels in Vixen Plus. It won't hurt you to do that. You can do it. It's just planning will save you a lot of headache later on down the road. So that's just one way that I like to plan, is just go grab an image of my house and start drawing on it. I think I did this in Paint, as a matter of fact. But after you do plan and you realize, okay, I want to have a mega tree, and I want to set up a mega tree with 2,400 channels. How do I do that? One of the ways you can do it is to use, who's ever got their mic on, could you mute it, please? Is you can come into the Add Multiple under the Channels tab. Here we go. It's a Channels tab, and then as soon as you say Add Multiple, you're now previewing what you're adding. I want to point that out. That's been a little confusing to people before. And so we're going to make a mega tree here. It's going to be 16 strings. There's going to be 50 nodes on each string. And so we're going to call it mega tree string and then node. And what I did here is I typed in how each of the channels are going to be named. And I'm going to pause here just for a second. Okay, I need everybody to please mute their microphones. I'm getting some bad feedback on my end here. I don't know if it's affecting everybody else, but I'm getting bad feedback here. I'll have to turn everybody's microphone off if we can't get everybody to cooperate with that, please. I hate to do that. Thank you. Okay, so this is the channel name format. What this is going to do is we're going to create however many channels this ends up being. We're going to have, the, like I say, the 25 strings, 50 nodes on each, and each node is going to have a red element, a green element, and a blue element. And so what I've done here is I said this is kind of how I want my naming to be formatted. And so I'm going to go string 1. So the first thing I need to add is some numbers to that. And you see how the 0 here matches this 0 up here. And if you look over here, that gets replaced in my channel name there. Well, it created one channel for me. Why did it only create one channel? Well, I told it to limit itself to one channel. So we're going to do 25 times 50 times 3, which we bring up the handy calculator. 25 times 50 times 3, 3,750 nodes. I think that's right. So we'll tell it to limit to 3,750 nodes, but still I only have one channel here. Because I told it to stop at a number. Here we're going to tell it to stop at 25 because I'm going to have 25 strings, eventually 25 strings. There we go. I've got 25 strings. Now I haven't done anything with the nodes, and I haven't done anything with the color of that node. So I need to add those too. So I'm going to say node 1. So I'm going to add another number rule here, and you see that 1 pops up to match this one over here, and it also does a replacement here. And now we say we want to stop that at 50 nodes because there's 50 nodes per string. So now you see I have string 1, node 1, but I still haven't done anything with that 2, so it just goes 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 50. And then it starts with string 2, node 1. So the third thing I'm going to add for this number 2 here, and of course, programmers always have to start at 0 or 1, instead of 1, so that's why we start at 0 there. We're going to add a word now. We're going to say add the words rule, and I'm going to put a space in my template up here. And then the words I'm going to add are red, and then green, and then blue. And now you notice how we have mega tree, string 1, node 1, red, green, blue. Just by defining them here. And did it end up in 3,750 channels? It sure did. Mega tree, string 25, node 50, blue. That's how easy it would be to add a 25 string, 50 node mega tree to your profile. You would just say add channels to profile, and it adds them in there, and now those channels are available in your profile. That easily. Another thing you can do on this screen, it remembered the last thing that I was doing, but what if I want to share this with somebody? I want to share doing this template with somebody. I can say save it, and this is my 25 string 15 node mega tree. I save that, and now I can share this file, which will be out in our data, and I believe it's under support, templates, and there it is. You could take and share this. It's just a simple text file, an XML file. You can share that with people, and then they can create their own mega tree as well. Any questions about the templates and setting up multiple channels? Any comments?
What about if you wanted to set up a mega tree with single strings, each like red, green, blue strings, but well, red, green, blue, white, let's say, and but each string is its own thing rather than using pixels.
Okay.
Would you do that here?
You could do that here, yeah. It'd be very easy to do. So what we'll do is we'll just, boy, now I know I need a clear button on here to clear all this stuff out. So we'll just erase all this here real quick. Okay, so mega tree string 1, instead of nodes, we'll just take the nodes away. And now we'll add a number. And then we'll add a word. And the words will be, so you said red, green, blue, and white, right?
White.
Okay. Yeah. And the numbers, how many, you want, say 16 of each or
sure.
8 of each? Let's do 8 of each. Okay, and that we don't need to. So 8 times 4, 32 channels.
That sounds about right.
Well, it's adding 32 channels. This is a preview, remember. So it starts at 3751 because we already have 3750 in there. And so now it creates
Understood.
32 channels. But now what's not quite right, you're probably noticing, is this is red, right? And this is this says red and it's green. Well, what's happened is we haven't changed our colors over here to match our words. So we've got red, green, blue, white, but we only have red, green, blue. And now I'll double click on that. I'll select white. And there we go. Red, green, blue, white.
Oh, good
red,
Lord.
Green, blue, white. Red, green, blue, white. And I say add those channels to the profile. And bada bing, bada boom, there are those channels.
Holy cow.
Alrighty.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're going to, let me save this, and we're going to go to plugins. And now plugins are basically how we send data from Vixen Plus after you've done all your hard sequencing work, how we send it out to the different controllers or to our adjustable preview or the Megatree 3D previewer that's coming in this next release, or all the different previewers like the Renard dimmer or whatever. Right now, I'm just going to set up a RGB Megatree 3D previewer, and we'll add that in here, and that's going to be the 3750 channels. And then we'll go in and we'll set that up, and I can say it's 25 strings of 50 pixels, and I obviously need to adjust the position on that a little bit, and then the size, and X value, come down, and there we go. And it's a bottom to top, that works for me. And kind of clockwise, start position 9 o'clock. Okay, that looks good. And I say create. And now it's going to go through and it's going to take those 3750 pixels and do an adjustable preview for me on my Megatree, and it's created, and I say okay. We'll enable it, okay. And now, well, shoot, I forgot we're doing the profiles right now, the tutorials and the profiles. So I've set up a plugin now on here. We could set up other plugins, like we could do those last few channels on the Renard plugin. Those start at 3751 and go through there, and that's on COM1, 5768, Mark 2. And I'll say save that. And now we've got places for all of our channels to go out. Now I don't have anything hooked to COM1, so I'm going to disable that, but I've got it set up, and we're going to save that. It's going to be saved in our profile. But since I don't have anywhere for that data to go right now, I'm going to just turn it off. Next thing we have is groups here. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is on this multi-channel plugin is I'm going to have some options when, for example, on these here, to where there'll be a little checkbox next to these, and you can say group it by these as well. So group it by these numbers, and then it will automatically create a bunch of groups over here for you. I've been working on that. That's not going to come out until March. So groups will start getting automatically created when you do this add multiple. I think that'll save people a lot of hassle, because right now, having to go through and try to group these manually, one thing I can do is I can say, okay, add multiple groups. I want to add 25 groups, and I'm going to say Megatree string. And I go, okay, and now I've got 25 groups, but I would have to go through and select 150 nodes on here and select the one I want to go to and add, and then do that. So that's why I want to make it automated. Right now, I'm just going to select this first string instead of boring you all with going through and selecting a bunch of nodes and just doing this over and over and over again, but you could do that for the 25 nodes and you would have groups selected. I'll show you what groups do later. And the reason I think it just goes so well with that multi-channel node thingy is it just, you know, having a checkbox here and having to create those groups for you automatically will just be a huge time saver. So this is creating a very basic, I know I ran through a bunch of stuff, what we're recording, you can go through and play it back and see what I did. Any questions on this before we move on?
For your plans for doing the auto grouping thing,
Yes.
would it be able to deal with multiple sets of groups? So if I wanted to group by strings and then group by reds and greens and blues and group by, you know, whatever else weird things that I might want to do, is that the plan for
okay,
merge?
so right now, grouping by red is real easy to do. So, so I added a group called red, and now I go, okay, order the channels by color. And now all my channels are ordered by color, and so I can come down, I find the red channels, and I go, okay, copy all these red channels. And
are you doing a shift click to copy it to get all those?
Shift click to copy it. I'm selected on red. I say add. It just added all my red channels to that group.
Oh.
Okay, now pardon?
It's less necessary. Yeah.
And then you can sort them by name.
Out all channels.
You can sort by name. You can sort by color, then name. You can sort by name, then color. I don't know how many of those are usually optimal or useful, but yeah, the color was thought of a long time ago, but the auto grouping on the nodes and strings, especially when Vixen Plus starts supporting 24-bit color or RGB channels natively, instead of having to say, I want to do this on my red channel, I want to do this on my blue, I want to do this on my green. You'll just be able to go, I want to go from purple to green. And it'll go, okay, this is what you need to do. So when we get to that point, the grouping and all that will be so much more important, especially with another thing I'll show you when we get in and I'm demonstrating the grouping. Another feature that I'm going to be adding to groupings. Any more questions? Great question on that one, Kirk. Okay. Adding channels, output plugins, groups, the what and why in groups. I think we covered that pretty good, so we're ahead of schedule. I'm going to say okay. I know a lot of people may not use pixels, but we did have some channels that we added, I thought, here. Huh. I thought we added those 32 channels. Maybe we did not. Let's go ahead and add them right now. String tree. Oh, and you notice how it's moving slow right now because I've said 3,750 channels. If it's moving slow, you can disable the live preview and type what it is you want. And I can't even see what I'm typing. I thought we added these in here. Okay.
Is it possible they're not showing up because you disabled the plugin?
No, that shouldn't affect what you're seeing in your profile at all.
Oh, that's right. We're here. Right. My bad.
No, that's okay. Okay, so red, green, white. We didn't want 25. We want 8, and we want 32. And now if I say update preview, it'll show us the 32 channels. And I can enable that live preview if I want to put a dash here or something like that, then it'll show me what it looks like in live. But that looks sufficient to me. So string tree. So there's our 32 channels, and add channels or profile. I've been having a bug with channels not saving, and I wonder if maybe that's what I'm experiencing here. I thought I smushed it, but I may not have. Save. Okay. Let's go back in and see if it saved it.
I don't remember you hitting that save when we went out to look at adding plugins, so it may have just been.
It shouldn't be necessary, and it did save it that time. I'm just being overly cautious. So, because if I say add one channel and I click OK, it saves all the changes when I click OK. If I click cancel, it's going to ask me save the changes before closing. I'm going to say no that time. So I'm just being a little anal retentive when I hit the save, and you might be wise to do that yourselves. I don't know if that's avoiding the bug or not. When generating that mega tree, is it possible to say start a channel at 1,000 instead of 1? Yeah. So let's go back to add multiple. No, let's do this. I don't want to mess this one up. So we'll add a new one. Start 1,000. Okay, so add multiple. And we'll bring up that template. And this number, you see the starting number right here? So I want string, are you saying string 1,000? Is that what you want? I don't know, we may have lost. No, you're still there. No, actual channel 1,000. What would you do with the, why wouldn't you create the 999?
Has to be divisible by 3.
What would you do with the other channels in front of that?
Well, I already got them with something else. It's just I've always started my mega tree with 1,000. So.
Oh, if you've already got something there, then it'll just start at the next channel. That's why I say planning is your friend. Now, you could take and you can move all these around. Moving things around gets to be
I hate that.
a pain.
The only way just need to add them in order. Even I got blank universes and stuff, so just have to go in order, I guess.
Yeah. Now, where you insert it in here, there's one thing I've been thinking of where you could come down to say like channel 999 and click on say a channel 1,000. What did I just do? Oh, great. You know, and say insert it from here. Insert it at that point. You know, add multiple from that point. I haven't got it doing that yet. So that's how you would actually start your channel at numbering at 1,000. It would be doing an insert at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to see that.
Okay. So, but also to go back to here, you can see that you can start at things at different numbers. That's interesting. Okay, cancel. Any other questions? I'm going to make a note on that. Insert channels, because I was working on something the other day, and I'm going, you know, that'd be an easy way to do that. So, see my question above.
And automatically shove everything that's already there up or overwrite?
Down. It'd probably just shove everything down.
Shove
okay.
Well, up in numbers, down on the screen.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Down on the screen, up in numbers. Yeah, exactly. It would insert at that point and increment all the channels above that.
Sweet.
Is V Plus going to be able to be converted to an FC file to use Falcon Pi Player? Okay. I'm going to show you guys something that I've been working on that isn't released yet. Can everybody see that there? This is just the first step. Yes, to answer your question, Terry, it will eventually. Right now, I can open lower music sequences. So I don't have any in there, but I know where I have some. Got them there? No, I've got them. Desktop, tempo. And there's a lower sequence in Vixen Plus. So yeah, eventually we'll be able to save and go out to File Compile Player and do all that. Tom Little, yes. Does the order you add channels in the profile affect the order they output? It does. However, like I say, you can move things around, and if you look at these, it's not very intuitive right now, and I hate showing this off because I always forget how it works. But you can take, and I want to add another small profile, and all I'm going to do is with this, I'm going to demonstrate some of these other things in this profile here. So I'm going to add 16 channels real quick. Okay, whoopie-doo, 16 channels. And now I want to take and color these channels RGB and white. So I can say multicolor, and it's the same way as it does it in the add multiple channels. So I've got 16 selected here, and I say RGB white. And I say OK, and I can change the color of my channels real easily. I forgot I wanted to show that too. Or I can take and select all of these and go just one color, red, and it'll change them all to red. Real easy things to do. You can select multiple channels, like I'll select all my green channels right now, and I'll say disable those channels. So you can do multiple selections, and you can see that those channels are now disabled. Or I can just enable that green channel again. I can select, say I'm not going to use 16 channels. I'm only going to use 8. I'm going to delete from, whoa. I exposed a bug. Isn't that cool? Delete. My colors went away. I don't know why. Delete, 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 delete. Oh, that's a neat bug, isn't it? Oh, man, that's annoying. See, I don't want you to delete channels. Everybody should have lots and lots of channels. But you see how your output channel is automatically changing, even though it was named channel 6. This output channel is still channel 1. So that's it's smart enough to know in this order is how it's going to be output. Now, if I want to change that around, oh, and here's where I always forget. I think if I select the output channel and I right-click and I move it, yes, that changed it. So you see the ones that I selected, 10, 11, and 12, I right-clicked and moved them up, and now they're output channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they're in the sequence as channel 1 is actually named channel 6, which is going to output on channel 4. So yeah, you can mess this up as much as you want, confuse yourself as much as you want. So it's basically select the ones you want to move in the order you want them moved, right-click on them, and move them to where you want them to be. Now, if you want them sorted in channel order, select them like that and drop them there. If you want them sorted like this, 6, 7, 8, and I don't have a 9, 10, 11, so now they're in order again. Make sense? Like I say, it's not intuitive.
The color you want as long as it's white, right?
No, you can't. That's a bug on the delete for some reason. I'm gonna look into that. Yeah. Bug on delete all colors. Colors go by. I can't type either. That's why my colors went away. Okay. Save. If I probably hit
but it's
save.
so difficult to put the colors back, huh?
Yeah, it's so difficult to put the colors back. So. All right. Am I missing any other questions? Been generated. Got that one. Got that one. All right. So now we got a bunch of profiles to work with here. We got well, that one's got nothing in it. We got the nice big one here. We're gonna use that one. Excuse me. I'm gonna take a drink of water here real quick. Sequencing. I'm going to open a sequence here real quick. Vixen Plus sequence. Oh boy. And of course, I don't have them where I want them. Just so I can bring up buttons. That's all I want to show you guys. Some buttons and a crash. Okay. I'm bringing up my version because I know I've got something in here. Okay, all the buttons. That's what I wanted to do. Cancel. So when, you know what? Hold on a second. Yeah, I know. This is because it's a lore sequence. Oh my goodness. La 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 la.
You can edit this out on the post editing.
I will edit this out. This will be fantastic. And now it won't let me shut it down either. Here we go. End process. End it. There we go. All right. We're going back into the tutorial. We're using the tutorial version. We're just going to set up a new. I'm going to run through this. Don't worry about it. Okay. This is what I wanted you guys to see. All these buttons up here. So one of the first things I do is I go through and I'll arrange my buttons to a way that I like them arranged. And I'll go through and explain what these all do. I just have a way that I normally set them up. And that's how I normally set mine up. You can set them up however you want. And then I come up to View, Toolbars, and I lock them in place. And now they're not going to move around anymore. And if they're not big enough, you can make the icons larger. Or if that's too big, I found as I was getting older, I couldn't see them, and I love the medium icons are good. You can make them smaller if you don't have much space. So we're going to go back and make a medium there. And so what do all these buttons do? So we have different toolbars that are exposed right now. We've got the display settings toolbar, so I'll hide that one, and oops, it disappeared. I'm going to turn them all off real quick here. This is what I should have done. All right, so the only toolbar I have up now is the sequence settings. So this is saying a new sequence. That's pretty obvious. We've got a new sequence here. Open a sequence, save the sequence. I click that, and it'll tell you the sequence is saved. Save the sequence as. This is where you can save, like it's a Vixen Plus sequence right now, and now you can save it as a Vixen 2.5 or a Vixen 2.1 if you want to, for backwards compatibility. You can do that there. We've got a channel mapper, which doesn't work with embedded profiles, which I'll go over that when we're using a profile. Test channels, I can open it up and I can send data out to my controllers by just testing the channels there. This is pretty much the same thing, except you can control multiple channels at the same time. Add audio to a sequence. The waveform, if it's there. Mask, this is what disables channels. You can do that here because you have an embedded sequence. And you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to close that up, and I'm not liking how this is going. We're going to say a new sequence. I'm going to walk you through the new sequence wizard. So when you start the new sequence wizard, it's going to tell you the what, why, effect, and notes for each of the steps of what you're doing. This will walk you through creating just a Vixen Plus standard sequence. So your event period is how long a single on-off event lasts. So we're going to set this up to be 50 milliseconds. You can set this anything from 10 milliseconds to, you know, honestly, I don't think there's an upward limit. I think you could set this to 10,000 milliseconds, which would be every 10 seconds if you wanted to. But we're going to set it to 50, which is the default that the program comes with. And so this is going to set up a bunch of events that happen in your sequence. And you can read through these as you go through Vixen Plus on your own. The profile, that's what we created earlier. So we're going to grab that tutorial profile, and that defines all our channel information. That way we don't have to do that profile information over and over again each and every time. And now we're going to assign audio. We're going to take and we're going to pick, oh, we don't have any audio there, so let me grab some real quick. And Wizards in Winter, imagine that. And we're going to select that. One of the things you can do, and I'm not sure a lot of people use this anymore on the setting up events, you can play the music, and it'll probably play through my speakers. Yep. So you can play the music and then use your control keys to type out a pattern if you wanted to. I don't know if many people use that anymore or not. I never used it. I put it in here because it was in the original Vixen. So we say OK. And if I want to change the length, it's got to be at least as long as the song, but say I want to make it 2 minutes and 3 seconds exactly. I can do that. And then I say create it, and this is the tutorial sequence, and it's saved. And there it is. And it did not save my preferences for me. Why not? I'm having some weird bugs even showing up.
This is your program, right? You wrote it, right?
No, I didn't.
How come it doesn't default to the way you like the screen to look?
Oh, it does if I'm not in the tutorial. I've had this nasty bug for some reason that it's not writing out preferences.
When you install it.
What?
When you first install it, it doesn't default to the way you like your screen to look.
For me, that would be pompous and arrogant.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, it would be.
We would like the developer to make a suggestion on the way the screen should look. That'd be very nice.
This is how the screen should look.
Well, default it that way when we install it, and then we can customize it as we wish.
Yeah, but what happens if people have screens that are that size?
They'll have to fix it, won't they?
Yeah, they'll have to go out and buy hardware. I don't want to force people that way. I'm not an evil genius. I'm just a genius. I'm not an evil genius. So
I'll have to work on you.
Okay. So every time I click save, this is kind of getting annoying to me. So I'm going to go up to my tools and preferences, and I'm going to say, you know what? When I'm editing a sequence and I'm saving, don't show me the save confirmation. And there's some other things that you can do in here. I would recommend the default until some things get annoying, like I said, the save confirmation gets annoying. And again, the developer does set some things up in a default manner, but other things he doesn't. So now that we have a sequence on here, we've got all of our channels in here. We've got this area of the screen across here that doesn't do much except tell us some timing marks. We've got all of our channels down the side here. If we scroll down, we can see we've got our 3,782 channels on there, which is a lot of channels. And even if we zoom each of the rows down to about 20% size, we still have a lot of channels there. So one of the things that we did, we'll go back to 100% there, was groups. And you know that first mega tree group that I did? Now if we scroll through our channels, there's only 150 channels on there, and if I zoom them down to 20%, oh, they actually can go to maybe 30%. They'll actually fit on the screen. So that's one of the nice things about groups. And now groups will remember their zoom size also. So if I go back to all channels, it's 100% zoomed. If I go back to that mega tree string 1, it knows it's at 30% zoom. So it'll save that information. So what can I do with this? Well, now here, I can go through and I can, since I've just got this group selected, and I'm going to make my columns a little bit narrower too. We'll go 60%. That usually gives 50%. Nice size there. And I'm going to select 6 seconds of, or 5 seconds of my sequence. And then if I go across some of these here, you'll see I can turn them on. So that turns all those cells on, or I can turn them off. I can do a ramp, which starts out at a low intensity and then it goes up to a higher intensity, or I can do a fade, which is the reverse, starts at a high intensity and goes to a low intensity. I can do a partial ramp. I can say start at 30% and go to 70%. And there you go. Or I can do the other way, 70 to 30. And now here you can, in the selected area, you can see it's doing, I don't know how well this is coming through on the video. Let me do a full fade here. It's brighter and then it fades out to nothingness over here. If I click this one here, cancel. Yes, it's my software. I don't know how to use it. You can see that there's some values in this over here, even though you can't see any colors. That's what this button does here. And so if you want to see them as a ramp, and what will help me show this a little bit better, we'll be zooming out. There we go. So there's the gradients. Trying to show that at 30% just did not work. And there is the ramp. So that's what that button does, is it just change it from gradients to ramps. I can take a selection. I'm going to zoom this back out to 30% now. And I can set all the cells that are selected to a specific intensity. I can say set it all to 75%. Now they're all set to 75%. I just undid that. Mirror vertically, mirror horizontally. If I have a, let me go through. If I have, oh, how can I demonstrate that? I've got a fade and I say mirror that vertically. That's not going to do much. And I take and I paste it there. That doesn't do much. But if I say mirror it horizontally, so a lot of things, it's interesting. You've got to go through and you've got to experiment to find out what they do. If I had a different sequence with a more elaborate changes and everything like that, the mirroring would be obvious. But it does what it sounds like it does. It takes a section of your sequence and it mirrors it either horizontally or it mirrors it vertically. So the little arrows will tell you which way it's going to mirror it. It's either going to mirror it left and right or top and bottom, and that's what those will tell you. I can take these cells and invert them. So it basically is a negative image of what those cells are. We've got random. So I can take a bunch of cells and I can click on random and I can say, okay, make sure The period length is, I want each period to cover 3 periods at least. Ensure I have 50% coverage. Vary the intensity levels between 20% and 90%. And OK. And there you have some randomization that's put in there. Shimmer, sparkle. So these kind of give you an example of what they look like before you put them in. And you can just watch the preview on the screen, and that'll be an example of what happens on there. The shimmer and also does that. And the shimmer basically says all these channels will go in sync and do the same thing. Nutcracker. I'm not going to get into Nutcracker right now. It needs another update, but there is Nutcracker in here if you want to go and explore it. It wasn't part of what we're going to get into tonight. But what I wanted to show you here is you've noticed I've had this one group selected, and that's really why I've done this. I have not impacted any of the other channels. I have only impacted that group. That's string 1 group. And that's the nice thing about groups. You can break them down. I could have tons of groups. Let me open up my version of Vixen Plus. Sorry guys, trying to find a version of stuff that I use this year. Here we go. My version is, of course, hooked to my developer's version, so we won't go there. I was going to show you, I've got like 50 groups to find, and it's just so nice to be able to go through and switch between those groups and do fades and just do all different kinds of stuff with it. So that's pretty much groups. I'm gonna open it up for questions. I think I'd probably cover better on questions if anybody's got questions about the groups. Okay.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can we see it play on your preview?
Can you see it play on my preview? Yeah. Did we hook that one up? We did, didn't we?
I thought you hooked up. Yeah, you hooked up the.
Yep. That's playing there.
Mm-hmm.
Not much there, but here, let's.
There's a lot of activity on string 1.
All right, so we'll show off Nutcracker here a little bit, I guess. Why not? What the heck? I'm going to start there at node 1. We come into Nutcracker. We say add a new model. It is 25 strings, 50 nodes per string. It is a 360 degree RGB. Okay. Mega. Okay, and I'm going to select the butterfly effect, and I'm going to specific point, current sequence selection, specific point in sequence, and I want to cover this. I want to go this for, let's say, 5 seconds at 20, so that'd be 100 of these puppies. So for 5 seconds. And play the effect. Oh. And it's not moving. Why is it not moving? Speed it up. There we go. Now it's moving. That's moving. And what style we want? No, we want that style. We want one chunk. There we go. That's pretty cool. Okay, for 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to say stop and okay. And it generates those. And now let's see if we've got something interesting on our playback. And there it is. And it only went for 5 seconds. One thing I want to point out, though, about this screen here is you notice it's free floating. It's not stuck inside Vixen Plus, and it's got focus right now, and I can pause the playback, and I can continue the playback, and you'll notice it changes up here as well. Pause, stop it, and there we go. So, and the adjustable preview is that way now too. So if you have multiple monitors, you can tell this preview to start on a different monitor, and it will know and remember where it starts up at, and will always start up there.
Start up there and the same size that you've set it to?
The size doesn't get saved yet. That was I was getting annoyed by that the other day, and I said I made a to-do in the code, so the size isn't yet. As soon as I get the lore stuff all loading up, I will tackle little things like that. You know, I run into these annoying things like deleting all those channels and seeing how it popped up to the last channel. It's like, oh, I've got to clean that annoyance up. So I go through those and I take care of those when I'm tired of other code for the time being. That's actually the first time I've actually seen. Go ahead.
I said I asked because I think it was Kyle that asked in an IM.
Oh, is there any way to save the window size when exiting so the window opens the same way next time? I like to stretch mine over dual mine. Yeah, the size, it will come. It's not there yet, but it will come. Okay. I was going to say that's the first time I've actually used the 3D tree preview and Nutcracker at the same time to output a show. That was pretty impressive that it worked. I didn't know that it was all working yet.
And it didn't explode.
And it did not explode. So that was pretty cool. I was a little hesitant there, but I was pleasantly surprised. So now we have some data here, which is good because I want to. We've got this paste preview now. What paste preview does is I can take a selection and I'm going to do Control-C, copy, and now it's in my buffer. And if I'll go over to an area that doesn't have anything on it, and if I click there and I press F3 now, it shows me what the paste is going to look like if I were to do a normal opaque paste. That's what it would look like. And now let's say I was doing a exclusive, no, let's do a NAND. That should do interesting. Yeah, that's what a NAND would look like because it's not AND. There's nothing to AND it with. So we'll do a not OR. And that makes an interesting pattern. So what the paste preview allows you to do is if you have data in, let's say we're going to paste over this location here, and now we're going to do an opaque, you can see, oh, wait, that's going to paste right over it. And I don't want to wipe out those blue channels and stuff. So I want to actually do a transparent paste. What's that going to look like? Oh, that's what I was thinking of doing. And so you can preview what it looks like. It goes away as soon as I release the F3. That's why it's flashing. So F3 down, F3 up, F3 down, F3 up. And that way you can preview what the paste looks like. What's that?
How do we know F3 does that?
If you hover over paste preview, F3.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Most of these
now I know how to find it when I want to.
Most of them that have keyboard shortcuts will show you the keyboard shortcut as you hover over it, like a ramp. If I select some cells and I hit R, there we go, we have a ramp. If I hit F, if I hover over that, ramp off, which is a fade, F. And Shift R will ask me the parameters for the ramp. Can't toggle, there's nothing there. I will bring up the intensity dialog. Mirror vertically, V. Horizontally, imagine that, H. Invert is a T, so if I hit T, there it inverts. Random is an A. Why is random an A? Because R is reserved for something else, for ramp.
Reserved for ramp.
So A. So yeah, all the keyboard shortcuts. And that's right. All the keyboard shortcuts like the play sequence, play from point, play from range, or play with range, pause, stop. All those that have keyboard shortcuts like the toggle crosshairs, that's a keyboard shortcut X, and that turns on the crosshairs. So you can turn them on and off as you're sequencing, like, oh, I need them on now. Okay, I selected my thing, and boom, that's where I want to go. Now I want them off, and I want to fade, and there we're good to go. So you can get really effective by keeping one hand on the mouse and one hand on the keyboard by learning those keyboard shortcuts, and I would recommend that people do that.
Now you just wiped out the butterfly effect. How far can you undo, and how far back can you go? Oh, very nice. Whoops. Sorry.
Wow. No, that's good. I like having crashes on demonstrations. Huh. That should have never happened. But look at that. Isn't Vixen Plus nice? It crashes, but it says, okay, you've made changes. You want to save them? It's like, yeah. And now we'll go back in. You should be able to go back all the way to the beginning of the tutorial. I don't know why it crashed, but it's got undo history right up here. So it'll tell you what you're going to undo. You're going to undo a fade in what I just did there. And if I do another one, and 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 I do another one, now I've got a bunch of undo history. And as I go back in the history, they change. So you should be able to undo all the way back to the beginning of the session. I don't know why that crash happened. I think it has something to do potentially with when I added the Nutcracker effect. So mega, specific point in the sequence. Let's do a 10-second one. So that'd be 1,000. No, that's a 50-second one, 200. And butterfly effect, and that again, and butterfly chunks, and speed, and preview. And okay. I'm testing the theory to see if it's this. I'm going to save it real quick though. And if I do undo,
and then,
it did do an undo, and then I did a redo, and it's
no,
all
but
there.
Add some stuff, then back. Add some fades or something in the middle of it, and undo those, and see what happens. Like you did, because that's what you did. And you hit undo, 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 undo a lot.
Yeah, I don't know why. And now we should be able to play that.
You didn't. Yeah, you didn't. There it is on the preview. And now try the undo.
Yep. Nope, that was a weird crash. It wrote it to the crash log. So anytime Vixen has a crash, there's a file that gets created in the installed directory called crash log. And if we take a look at that, come on, gee. It shows me what it was doing when it crashed. So I'll go and look at that later to see if I can figure out why it crashed. It's saying it was outside the bounds, but I do bounds checking in there, so that shouldn't have happened. I don't know why that happened. So if you ever get a crash and I ask you to send me the crash log, that's the file I'm asking people to send to me.
Does the crash log get overwritten after each crash? So if you had a crash
No, it gets
Add another
appended.
crash. Well, appended. Good. Okay. Bing.
Okay.
Right answer.
No, the crash log gets perpetually appended, and if you delete it, it'll get recreated when it needs it. So, no harm in deleting it.
You a smart guy.
Waveform. Well, I like data, and the more data you can send me to fix things, the better. And so I've started putting a lot of information into the crash log. The waveform preview. This is pretty nice. So what I just did is I just double-clicked here in this waveform, and now I've got my waveform, and I'm going to go my column zoom 100% so we get more detail on the waveform. This is my Wizard and Winner waveform. And what I can do with this section is it's now stretchable, and I can pull it down, and I can make my waveform a little bit more visible. So if I want to get things right on the beat, I can say, okay, right here, for how long? Let's see, for 0.8 seconds, let's do a nutcracker effect of fire. Specific point in the sequence. We want it for 0.8 seconds. Why aren't you? Now why isn't that saying anything? Not trigger sequence. Okay, fine. Put it to the clipboard. This is interesting. I think it's because I've got that selected. This is why Nutcracker needs some tweaking. Okay. Duh. I can be so dumb sometimes. Forgot to select a model. Fire. Use a palette. Play effect. Okay. We'll just put the fire in there for that little amount of time. So now I can start lining things up on beat if I want to. If I want to put a fade right on this beat here, and I'm just going to do that on the first string. Now, one of the things that's coming, it's not here yet, on these groups, there's going to be a little arrow on the side of this first channel here. And what that's going to allow you to do is to collapse this whole group itself into one line. And then you'll be able to take this one line and say, okay, I've selected the 150 channels. In other words, I want you to apply this to this entire group on these selected cells for these events. And it will be equivalent of doing basically this here. So these will be collapsed. You'll be able to just select these few cells, and we'll select all 150 nodes for you. And then you can say fade, and it'll do the fade across it just by collapsing and uncollapsing that. That's not there yet, but it will be there. Another thing that will happen is it will know that these are red, blue, and green, or RGB nodes, and it will show you the resulting color here, of course, being white. And then on fades, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I shouldn't be doing that. I should be talking about the audio waveform here. So the audio waveform, you can control the size of it to get more detail, less detail by moving it up and down, and then adjusting your column size because it'll recompute the waveform by the width of the columns. And then another trick, if you really, really want to get some detail in your waveform, is you can set your max column width to ridiculous number. I wouldn't recommend setting it too high, but let's say we'll set it to 100 right now. And now it recompute it, and now we go to 100% column width. And now you're really getting some detail in your sequence, but now your columns are 100 pixels wide. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'm just showing you some weird things you can do in Vixen Plus. Any questions about the waveform? All right, any questions about Vixen Plus? Let's open the question and answer period. I know that was really high level. I did dig down and expose some things that are coming in the future. I just get so excited about them, I forget about them, and those are some advanced features sometimes, so I apologize on that. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How synced with the Nutcracker release are you right now?
I'm about 18 months behind. And getting worse every day. Nutcracker, I am looking at a way, I've got an idea in my head of how to just incorporate what Sean et al. Have done into Vixen Plus, and then figure out how to get the data across. And with version 4, they're moving in the right direction for me, which I'm happy about. They're not doing it for me, so I'm just happy to see some architectural changes that they've made in their latest release that eventually may make it possible to where it will just be a button on Vixen Plus that will call the actual Nutcracker and then translate that data to your timing and paste it into the Vixen Plus sequence. That's the dream. That's where I'd like to get it to. But right now, yeah, it is a long ways behind. I've only got very basic effects. There's no movie effects in here. There's very limited text effects. So it's severely out of sync. But 99% of what's in here does work very well. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Let's see, Vixen Plus images. I love. Oops. Since I'm doing video, my mouse is a little slower than normal. There we go. Do some creepy. Any questions? I'm waiting for questions. I'm just playing around here, being odd. That's a good one. Has anybody tried Nutcracker effect using dumb pixels? I don't think so. I've never
What's
tried
a dumb
to
pixel?
Are there going to be dimming curves? Yes, there are dimming curves. I'm trying to create a 2-minute Nutcracker sequence. I think I overtaxed my machine. So right now, we go to that tutorial. You can double click on a channel property, and since we are in Vixen Plus, since this is a Vixen Plus, you can see that up here. There are dimming curves, and 2.5 supports dimming curves as well. That's the good news. The bad news is the UI is the same UI that was in Vixen 2. I've never changed any of this. I just took what Casey had and used it. So the UI stinks. I'm not happy with this at all. That's the bad news. But you can import and export them. So if you get one that's right, that you like, and you can export this one, and you can see how the format is, and you can actually, it's quicker to edit it by hand and then bring it into the curve library again that way. So yeah, they do support dimming curves. this is going to change, but I'll make sure everything's backwards compatible. Eventually, there's going to be a Vixen Plus format. There won't be a .vix. It'll be its own format. Yeah, I'm not sure what a dumb pixel is, so I don't know, Terry, if I can answer what you mean. Any other questions? We got a heavy breather on the line. Is that you again, Kirk? Wonder if it generated that. Sagged. Is it still trying to generate, or did it generate? I don't think it generated. I think I messed something up. Oh, I've got the same one open twice. All right. If we've got no more questions, I guess we'll end it for tonight. Oh, wait. Is anybody trying? You're using the entire string as either red, green, or blue. You get some good effects with random using them. Oh, you mean just having 3 different color strings and using Nutcracker to sequence it? Yeah, I imagine that would be interesting.
Or it's a dumb RGB string, I think, is what maybe what he means, because it has the. I'm thinking it has RGB LED.
Yes, RGB script. Yeah. I guess you could. I don't know what value, because that'd just be 3 channels, and eventually 3 channels an RGB channel will just be 1, and then if you want it to go from, fade from pink to green, there'll be an UI to allow you to do that. I want to thank the 6 of you for sticking it through the end. Hopefully this recorded well, and I will get it posted sometime tomorrow. I should have plenty of time tomorrow to get it posted. Go out and download Vixen Plus if you have any questions. What's that?
I want to thank you for putting up with me.
Oh.
And sticking it out all the way through with me.
Yeah, well, I had it open a couple times to mute you, but I didn't. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. No, you brought some levity here, and I appreciate it. I hope everybody else does too. Thank you for sticking with me. I got in a little pain here towards the end, so I got a little distracted. I apologize for that, but like I say, edit that all out in post. So
there we go.
All right. We'll do another one next month, so it'll be a little bit more advanced. We'll get into some deeper stuff. I hope to have the ELF adjustable preview incorporated by that time, and we'll be demonstrating that if I do. And if not, we'll be going over loading up different files and saving out to the Falcon Pi player, which is exciting. I've got the infrastructure all built in for that now. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.